Welcome to Mythical Cities Volume 1, a captivating journey through the mysterious realms of the past and the depths of human imagination. In this episode, we explore 3 locations that, over the centuries, have stirred passions, fueled legends, and made history resonate: Shangri-La, Tenochtitlán, and Quivira. Each of these cities was once enveloped in a golden aura of hope, courage, and the spirit of adventure, inviting us to exceed our limits and surrender to their eternal enchantment. First, we venture into the hidden world of Shangri-La, a mountain paradise in the heart of Asia, mentioned in Tibetan lore as the place where inner peace and spiritual enlightenment take tangible form. Still veiled in the mist of towering mountains and ethereal clouds, Shangri-La remains a beacon of human fulfillment and a symbol of lost harmony for many seekers. Next, we journey to Tenochtitlan, the former capital of the mighty Aztec Empire, perched in the midst of a lake and endowed with grand temples and bustling plazas. Here, civilization and myth interwove in a sacred dance, and traces of gold, obsidian, and precious stones still gleam in our imagination. We discover how this legendary metropolis emerged from a prophecy and became a formidable cultural and military power. Finally, our path leads us to Quivira, the fabled land of limitless riches, feverishly pursued by Spanish conquistadors. Legends speak of gold, silver, and immeasurable wealth, yet all that remains is the aura of mystery drifting over the endless plains and the disappointed hopes of adventurers. Join us on this meaningful and challenging mission, where the secrets of the ancient world and the force of imagination intertwine to unveil the splendor and grandeur of these fairy tale cities. We embark together on a unique adventure in which history, myth, and the human spirit merge into a symphony of dreams and reality. Through the prism of thoughts and dreams, there are places that few have glimpsed and even fewer have truly understood. On the border between reality and myth, tucked away in the heart of the mighty Himalayan peaks, lies a legend that still ignites the imagination of explorers, poets, and mystery seekers: Shangri-La. The very name of this storied realm stirs echoes of longing and hope, fueled by the idea of a terrestrial paradise where peace, knowledge, and beauty coexist in almost inconceivable harmony. But what exactly makes Shangri-La so special? Did it truly exist, or does it remain merely a mirage drawn from Himalayan legends? Picture a hidden valley, framed by towering mountains whose snowy peaks seem to pierce the sky, reflecting the sunlight in all the diamond-like hues. Deep within this valley, ancient pathways meander, perhaps silent for centuries, laden with secrets and hopes. The air is so pure that each breath feels like a pledge to eternity. There, between the clouds dancing above the cliffs and the winds whispering the songs of the ages, rest the ruins, or by some accounts the living remnants, of a city that was once among the most prosperous and refined creations of humankind. We begin this journey with the subtle sound of a Tibetan flute, as though diving straight into the soul of the mountain. Somewhere in the distance, a wooden gong resounds, setting the rhythm of an ancient ritual. We pass through the mist and arrive, as if by miracle, at the massive, elaborately carved wooden gates of a lost city. Legends say that anyone who enters Shangri-La immediately feels an all-encompassing tranquility, deeper than any peace known in the outside world. Through these words, we invite you to follow the footsteps of dreams beyond the borders of the ordinary, stepping into a tale where every stone, every blade of grass, and every gust of wind recount the grandeur and downfall of a unique civilization. Today, we embark on an epic expedition to explore the historical wonders, cultural mysteries, and captivating theories surrounding the disappearance of this legendary place. Step by step, we will reconstruct how Shangri-La was founded, how it flourished, and how it ultimately slid into the darkness of oblivion. We will learn of its visionary leaders, the political and spiritual systems that guided its inhabitants, the bustling markets where trade intertwined with art, and the temples where spirituality merged with science. So prepare yourselves for a thrilling journey through millennia, for Shangri-La is not merely a name, it is a symbol of humanity's aspiration toward perfection and eternity. To better understand the fascinating story of Shangri-La, we must journey back in time to the origins of accounts that mingle myth with reality. According to oral chronicles passed down in the villages at the foot of the Himalayas, the first tribes to settle in the area were nomadic peoples who roamed the mountain passes in search of scarce resources and more hospitable territories. Legends speak of a spiritual leader named Sering Norbu, an enlightened monk who is said to have received visions of a sacred place, shielded from the hardships of the outside world. It is said he chose the valley due to a unique confluence of energies, and under his guidance, the first stones of Shangri-La were laid with great reverence. Modern scholars, though lacking indisputable archaeological evidence, hypothesize that this founding could have taken place around the 2nd century BCE. However, there are also theories placing the city's beginnings later, during a period when Himalayan kingdoms exerted growing influence over trade in Central Asia. In any case, once the community took root, Shangri-La began to develop at a remarkably rapid pace. Initially governed by a theocratic system where monks played a crucial role in political and cultural decisions, the city underwent multiple transformations over the centuries. It adopted a well-structured hierarchy, led by wise sovereigns, chosen more for their spiritual virtues and knowledge than for any noble birth. Thus, wisdom and compassion became the pillars of governance, fostering a unique social environment. During its golden age, estimated to have occurred between the 7th and 10th centuries, Shangri-La forged a rich cultural identity. Its architecture, influenced by Tibetan and Indian styles, was enhanced by local elements and a singular artistic flair that could be seen in its temples, palaces, and noble residences. Mural paintings and stone sculptures depicted protective deities, holy figures, and mountain landscapes, all laden with symbolism. Meanwhile, music, dance, and oral literature took center stage in daily life, passing on the community's traditions and values from generation to generation. If anything has cloaked Shangri-La in an aura of absolute mystery, it is the legends and myths that have preserved its name through to the modern era. Some stories speak of the Lake of Eternal Youth, a subterranean body of water believed to slow aging and heal diseases thought incurable. Elders in Himalayan villages still keep alive their ancestors' tales. A secret path carved through the mountains once led to this hidden lake. Only those with pure hearts could find the entrance, and those who crossed it would witness miracles beyond imagination. Another legend originates in Tibetan beliefs about reincarnation and karma. It is said that the Great Lama, half god, half human, blessed the founding of the city through prayers and secret rituals so that its people would always be guided by the light of spiritual knowledge. Some historians contend these accounts reflect a cult of wise monks perpetuated through ceremonial rites, striving to achieve enlightenment not just for a select few, but for the entire population. Shangri-La's mythology also includes the tale of the Celestial Queen, who was believed to maintain the energetic balance of the mountains, discreetly yet firmly watching over the community. Tradition holds that during each summer solstice, processions of priests and masked dancers would ascend a sacred peak to offer tribute to this celestial queen. There, in the supreme stillness of the mountain, a ritual dance took place, symbolizing the harmony between nature's forces and human will. According to legend, as long as this dance was performed correctly and with a pure spirit, the city would remain flourishing and safe from harm. Though these myths may sometimes seem plucked from fantasy, they have sustained Shangri-La's reputation as a paradise not only in the physical realm, but also in the spiritual one, a place where the boundary between the sacred and the profane blurs and where miracles become possible. Over time, such stories have cultivated a near magical allure, drawing pilgrims, researchers, and adventurers eager to discover the truth behind the legends. Some sought mystical powers, others sought physical healing, and still others pursued philosophical answers to existential questions. Each visitor left with their own version, deepening the mystery and mirage of this place, long lost to time. Despite its mystique, Shangri-La was not solely a mythical land of miracles and spirituality, but also a surprisingly advanced social and economic center for its era. One reason for its prosperity may have been its very isolation. Nestled in a remote valley, the city remained largely unthreatened by barbarian invasions, allowing it to develop intricate governance structures and production systems. A vital component of Shangri-La's wealth was its highly efficient agricultural system, adapted to the harsh climate. Both legends and certain Tibetan documents mention the terraced fields carved into the mountains where robust grains like barley and millet were grown, alongside vegetables and rare medicinal plants. An ingenious network of irrigation channels harnessed glacier meltwater, guiding it to the farthest corners of the terraces. The result was a steady, abundant harvest that provided not only enough food for the inhabitants, but also a surplus to trade with tribes and towns near the Himalayan mountains. Beyond agriculture, craftsmanship was highly esteemed. Shangri-La's weavers produced fine fabrics made from yak wool and silk threads obtained through secret trade routes, which likely connected the city with Central Asian kingdoms and possibly India and China. Skilled jewelers crafted pendants and rings, adorned with semi-precious stones mined from the mountains, while potters fashioned vessels and figurines blending local motifs with an array of cultural influences. According to some accounts, the city's markets were a riot of color and energy. The tinkling of bronze bells and the beating of drums filled the air, accompanying stalls laden with dried fruits, exotic spices, and artisanal goods, in a sensory spectacle that bewitched every visitor. Society as a whole was structured around the concept of balance, both spiritual and political. Although there was a supreme ruler, usually a lama or a sovereign blessed by the sacred temples, he did not act despotically, but worked alongside a council comprising representatives of the monastic communities, merchants, and craft guilds. The laws were simple but firm, grounded in principles of cooperation and collective responsibility. For instance, it was said that anyone disturbing the balance through greed or unprovoked violence would be exiled from the community to an isolated monastery, where they would be encouraged toward penance and reflection. Daily life was filled with rituals and festivals, celebrating harmony with nature and the veneration of protective deities. Each season was marked by public dances and temple ceremonies, where priests offered blessings for bountiful harvests, fertility, and peace. The inhabitants' homes, built of stone and wood, were arranged along an urban plan carefully designed to respect the flow of the land's energies, in line with local feng shui beliefs. Streets were wide and paved, enabling easy passage for pack animals and merchants, while fountains and small interior gardens provided not just utility, but also tiny oases of serenity. Education was also a priority. Children were taught to read and write from an early age, with most schools attached to monasteries, where they received not only religious instruction, but also lessons in astronomy, traditional medicine, and philosophy. This unique blend of spirituality and practical knowledge gave rise to specialists admired throughout the region. Healers skilled in rare plants, astronomers capable of calculating celestial movements, and even engineers involved in constructing bridges and temples. In summary, Shangri-La's society was a carefully measured fusion of innovation, tradition, and collective wisdom, an alchemy that forged its golden reputation, a place where people could truly attain a state of unparalleled peace and prosperity. Yet, as with any grand tale, this one is overshadowed by a pivotal turning point. Paradoxically, the very qualities that once made Shangri-La so remarkable eventually became the crucible of its downfall. Numerous theories attempt to explain the gradual decline or outright disappearance of this enigmatic civilization. The first theory points to climate change. Located at a high altitude, Shangri-La was deeply reliant on the predictable rhythms of the seasons and on glacier-fed water sources. Certain centuries may have witnessed more extreme climatic shifts, either global cooling or catastrophic natural events like distant volcanic eruptions, disrupting typical weather patterns. A prolonged drought, or conversely, devastating floods, could have severely damaged terraced agriculture and food supplies, weakening the city's economic foundation. A second theory concerns conflicts and invasions. Although Shangri-La enjoyed extended periods of peace, being spared regional political tensions, it is believed that around the 11th century, the first attacks by nomadic tribes began, drawn by the city's wealth. While Tibetan archives offer scant details, there are references to a Black Sky campaign that ravaged several isolated mountain settlements. If Shangri-La became one such casualty, its residents might have been driven out or forced to retreat to even more remote areas, scattering their culture in the process. A third hypothesis, steeped in mythology, suggests a break in the spiritual equilibrium. It is said that during a period of internal corruption and personal ambition, sacred rituals were neglected, and the crucial solstice dances were no longer properly performed. Consequently, the celestial queen was believed to have left the valley and her blessing turned into a curse of decline. In a more pragmatic interpretation, once traditional values were compromised, social cohesion unraveled, leading to internal strife, betrayal, and mass migration. Lastly, some speculate that the inhabitants may have deliberately withdrawn into obscurity. Faced with an increasingly hostile outside world and new geopolitical machinations, the spiritual leaders might have chosen to hide their city entirely, literally and figuratively. They may have abandoned more accessible areas and built temples and settlements farther into the mountains, shrouded by fog and traversable only by difficult paths. It is possible that part of the culture survived in hidden sanctuaries, perpetuating the ideals of Shangri-La even to this day, in discreet monastic sects. Regardless of which theory one embraces, a single point is undeniable. Shangri-La slipped into the realm of legend, leaving behind only remnants of art, traditions, and oral histories that continue to fascinate. Over the centuries, explorers and scholars have attempted to unearth evidence of its existence, yet no findings have been definitive. Perhaps that is the city's ultimate allure, to remain an everlasting symbol of hope and the human aspiration toward peaceful coexistence. And so we reach the end of a journey through time and space in search of a city that continues to live on in humanity's collective memory as a genuine ideal. Shangri-La is not merely a parable for what a perfect community might look like. It also bears a gentle warning. Any civilization, no matter how flourishing, may fall when the balance between nature and fundamental values is broken. Whether we imagine this place as a secret fortress still inhabited by sages hidden in the mountain mist, or regard it as a beautiful fable, its message remains strikingly relevant. As the final strains of ceremonial music fade into the echo of the mountains, we hold on to the image of massive gates, possibly sealed forever, whose splendor now touches us only in dreams. Perhaps one day, someone guided by the spirit of adventure and the pursuit of truth will discover the path to those lost walls. Until then, Shangri-La remains a testament to the power of imagination and humanity's capacity to transform grand dreams into reality. It may not be found on official maps, but it endures on the map of the heart, where hope, peace, and courage beckon us to explore, to understand, and to remember that the greatest treasures are not always tangible. They are the ones that nurture our spirit and inspire us to be better. Thus, at journey's end, I invite you to keep your inner eyes open. Beyond the snow-capped peaks, beyond the scattered clouds and the echo of ancient drums, Shangri-La may still speak to us. It beckons perhaps not to be conquered, but to be understood and safeguarded as a collective treasure of humanity. And this call finally transforms into a story without end, an invitation to adventure, to knowledge, and to hope. We who have listened may now count ourselves among the bearers of this vanished civilization's legacy, carrying forward the dream and the beauty of a place where harmony was truly at home. This concludes our documentary on Shangri-La, the fabled Himalayan city lost in the mists of time, yet never forgotten in the annals of myth and in the hearts of those who believe that on occasion miracles happen in the most unexpected places. We thank you for accompanying us on this journey and hope you will always keep the flame of curiosity and the courage to dream burning brightly. Before modern-day Mexico rose above the ancient ruins, before skyscrapers and bustling avenues replaced ancestral edifices, there was a legendary city, Tenochtitlan, the grand capital of the Aztec Empire, hidden amidst the waters of Lake Texcoco, once stood as a symbol of power, of human imagination, and of the sacred bond between mortals and deities. Today, only a handful of visible traces recall this glorious metropolis, yet the stories and vestiges that remain invite us to travel back in time, to explore a place where reality was tightly woven with mythology, and where human ambition reached its zenith through architecture, art, and rituals. In the next few minutes, I invite you to venture into a realm where past and present converge, to hear the echo of obsidian bells and warrior drums, and to glide along the canals that astonished even the Spanish conquistadors. Welcome to Tenochtitlan, city of the eagle and the serpent, where legend and history continue to captivate the entire world. It is said that the Aztecs, or Mexica as they called themselves, received a divine sign from the god of war and the sun, Huitzilopochtli. You shall build a great city where you see an eagle devouring a serpent perched upon a cactus growing from a rock. For generations, this nomadic tribe wandered along the shores of Lake Texcoco, in the heart of the Valley of Mexico, carrying their ancient beliefs and customs. They waited in suspense for the moment when the prophetic vision would be fulfilled. Then, one day, according to sacred accounts, the Mexica witnessed that fateful scene on a small, marshy island in the lake. To modern observers, it might sound like a fairy tale legend, yet for the Aztecs, it was a divine sign. And thus, around the year 1325, they laid the first stones of what would become one of the most impressive metropolises in the pre-Columbian world, Tenochtitlan. The story of the city's founding is more than just a picturesque episode. It reflects how the Aztecs perceived the cosmos. In their view, the land chosen by the gods was a sacred space, and the lake's waters stretched like a mysterious boundary between the known world and the divine realms. Recreating their history reveals that the Mexica were initially marginalized by more powerful neighbors who viewed them as a restless, warlike group. Yet they learned to use both diplomacy and military prowess to secure a place in this valley already populated by sophisticated city-states. As they grew stronger, they formed alliances and adapted to the geopolitical context of the era. The name Tenochtitlan itself appears to stem from words referring to the nopal, a cactus and stone, a direct reference to the sacred sign they interpreted as their national destiny. Although the city began on swampy land that seemed unfit for a complex civilization, the Aztecs proved themselves masters of hydraulic systems and agriculture. In time, that seemingly inhospitable landscape became one of their most significant advantages. The lake protected them from potential enemies and provided precious resources: fish, plants, waterfowl, and above all, a natural network of canals that fostered transport and trade. Over the years, this humble foundation evolved into a city of stone and mud, built through an impressive collective effort. The city's layout gradually took shape under a strict plan, reflecting the profound religious symbolism of the Aztecs. Its main axis led to the sacred heart of the settlement, the Templo Mayor, dedicated to the supreme gods Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc, the latter being the deity of rain and fertility. The temple walls were often painted in vivid colors, and the towering steps invited priests and nobles to ascend for elaborate ceremonies meant to preserve cosmic balance. Surrounding this ceremonial core were residential districts, markets, and noble estates. Flanking them on all sides, Lake Texcoco showcased its power and beauty, turning Tenochtitlan into a true lake-based capital. As Tenochtitlan grew, the Aztecs did not stand alone in the Valley of Mexico. They confronted other rival cities like Texcoco and Tlacopan, as well as regional powers already endowed with rich cultural legacies. In the 15th century, the Mexica formed what we now call the Triple Alliance, with Texcoco and Tlacopan securing dominance over the vast central region of Mexico. Over time, however, Tenochtitlan became the principal force within the alliance, exerting military and economic control over extensive territories. A key figure in this context was Moctezuma I, also known as Motecuzoma Ilhuicamina, who ruled between approximately 1440 and 1469. Under his reign, Aztec power solidified, and Tenochtitlan greatly augmented its resources through the tribute demanded from conquered lands. Hence, the city began to dazzle with magnificent palaces, majestic temples, and vibrant marketplaces. Leaders like Axayacatl, Tizoc, and Ahuitzotl continued this expansion, enhancing the capital's prestige and making it famed for its riches, elaborate ceremonies, and formidable military strength. Aztec society was stratified, topped by a supreme noble, the Tlatoani, regarded not just as a political leader, but also as an intermediary between mortals and deities. Below him were nobles, priests, and elite warriors, each with distinct obligations and privileges. The middle class was made up of artisans, merchants, and small landowners who enjoyed a certain stature within the community. At the bottom of the hierarchy were peasants, simple farmers, and laborers who, though lacking special rank, still benefited from legal protections and land rights. Furthermore, the Aztec educational system served both nobles and commoners through schools like the Kamacac for nobles and future priests, and the Telpochcali for ordinary youth and future warriors. Religious influence was deeply woven into every aspect of life. Each military victory was accompanied by sacred rituals in which war captives were offered up as human sacrifices to the gods. Though this practice appears brutal from a modern perspective, for the Aztecs, the flow of blood was seen as essential to nourish the sun and maintain cosmic balance. Against this backdrop, Tenochtitlan rose to prominence not only as a political and economic hub, but also as an axis mundi, a meeting point of earth, sky, and the underworld. Another significant innovation was the complex management of water resources and the construction of causeways, roads elevated above the lake that linked the central island to the surrounding shores. These structures facilitated both trade and military maneuvers, making Tenochtitlan an undeniable strategic center. Moreover, the Aztecs developed chinampas, the famous floating gardens. Essentially, they created rafts of soil and reeds, where they planted a broad array of vegetables and flowers. This highly productive agricultural system sustained the steadily growing population of the metropolis. Like any advanced society, Tenochtitlan nurtured a vibrant cultural life. Architecture served not merely as a means of residence or worship, but as a sophisticated art form, charged with sacred meaning. The Templo Mayor, located at the heart of the city, represented the axis of the Aztec universe. At its peak stood two temples, side by side. One dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, the god who guided the Aztecs to found Tenochtitlan, and the other to Tlaloc, the god of rain and fertility. The steep steps that the priests ascended during ceremonies symbolized the soul's journey toward the divine realm, and the offerings on these altars were meant to ensure the continued rise of the sun and the life-giving rains. Among the cornerstone myths of the Aztecs was the legend of the five suns, 5 successive ages of the world, each destroyed by a cataclysm before the next took form. They believed they lived in the fifth sun, and that their sacrifices were vital to prevent this final epoch from collapsing. This belief pressed heavily upon the religious and military elite, shaping nearly every aspect of life in Tenochtitlan. Aside from religion, the arts flourished. The Aztecs were skilled in stone carving, creating monumental sculptures of fearsome deities or cosmic symbols. Their reliefs and murals depicted battles, sacred processions, and representations of the gods, while artisans worked gold and precious stones with striking refinement. Poetry was highly esteemed, and poets and storytellers frequently performed at noble courts. Meanwhile, ritual dances accompanied by drums like the teponaztli and huehuetl, or by bone flutes, added to these cultural festivities, turning them into unforgettable celebrations. A pivotal aspect of daily life was the central market, Tlatelolco, which Spanish chronicler Bernal Diaz del Castillo described with amazement. It hosted thousands of vendors, arranged in sectors that sold everything imaginable: vegetables, exotic fruits, fish, turkey, cacao, cotton, pottery, tools, jewelry, and many other goods. Specialized merchants brought products from mountain or tropical areas, and the abundance of spices and medicinal plants impressed even seasoned visitors. This bustling bazaar reflected both the diversity within the Aztec Empire and the sophistication of its trade networks. Monetary exchange relied on cacao beans, cotton cloths, known as cuachtli, or items crafted from obsidian and turquoise, a balanced system bridging barter and symbolic currency. Picture gliding in a small wooden canoe, known as an akali, through the ordered canals of Tenochtitlan. The walls of adobe and stone buildings painted in bright colors shimmer in the clear water. Children dash along the banks, watching curiously, while women wash clothes or tend to meals over open fires. Narrow wooden bridges link different parts of the city, and the lively hum of the central market drifts through the air, mingling with the scent of fresh flowers from the chinampas. Occasionally, you might hear drums or shelled trumpets calling warriors to drills or announcing the start of a temple ceremony. Most ordinary houses were relatively modest, but well suited to the lakeside environment. Noble residences, by contrast, featured spacious courtyards, embellished walls, and sturdy rooftops. Within these dwellings, family life revolved around the fire, small wooden tables and beams of light filtering through narrow windows. Kitchens formed the home's core, where women ground corn on metates to make fresh tortillas, tamales, or foaming chocolate drinks from cacao. The diet abounded in corn, beans, chili peppers, and chia seeds, supplemented by fish and meats like turkey or rabbit. Education for children varied by social class. Those of noble lineage attended the Kalmakak, studying pictographic writing, religion, rhetoric, and military skills. In contrast, the sons of commoners went to the Tenochtitlan, focusing chiefly on warfare and practical tasks. Girls, regardless of background, learned domestic crafts, though some became priestesses or attained key roles in the temple. All of this points to a society that emphasized discipline and the transmission of cultural and religious values. Aztec warriors enjoyed special distinction in the social ladder. Alongside priests, elite soldiers, such as jaguar warriors and eagle warriors, were held in high regard. They had proven their bravery on the battlefield by capturing prisoners for sacrifice and pushing the empire's borders outward. During public ceremonies, these warriors were honored with great pomp, donning jaguar pelts or eagle feathers to underscore their sacred bond with the powers of nature. By the early 16th century, Tenochtitlan had reached its zenith. Population estimates suggest that together with adjacent Tlatelolco, the city may have sheltered between 200,000 and 300,000 inhabitants, making it among the globe's largest cities of that time. Its canals, causeways, markets and temples formed a stunning urban tableau, astounding even the most experienced travelers. Yet this splendor was not solely sustained by local assets. It also depended on the vast tributes exacted from subjugated regions, supplying food, textiles, raw materials, and even war captives for inevitable rituals. Amid this thriving milieu, around 1502, rose Moctezuma II, Moctezuma Xocoyotzin, perhaps the most renowned of Aztec rulers. His intellect and religious zeal made him a figure of both sophistication and controversy. On the one hand, a cultured diplomat, on the other, a symbol of imposing military and spiritual authority. Under Moctezuma II, Tenochtitlan reached new heights of refinement, yet also confronted intensifying internal and external pressures. Discontent swelled among oppressed peoples, while ritual sacrifices accelerated, inciting dread and hostility among those under Aztec dominion. Fate can sometimes act in unforeseen ways. In 1519, a European expedition commanded by Hernán Cortés landed on Mexico's shores. The first rumors of strangers clad in metal and riding unfamiliar beasts, horses, triggered confusion, dread, and curiosity among the Aztecs. Some even connected the Spaniards' arrival with the prophesied return of the god Quetzalcoatl, who was expected to come from the east. Hoping to appease them, or at least gauge their intentions, Moctezuma II sent envoys with lavish gifts, yet Aztec generosity only inflamed Spanish greed. Cortés, aware of the empire's inner-tensions, forged alliances with indigenous groups that detested Aztec rule, notably the Tlaxcaltecs, who resented Moctezuma's burdensome tributes. Hence, the conquistadors neared Tenochtitlan with a force larger than one might suspect. A few hundred Spaniards backed by thousands of indigenous allies. In November 1519, they were ceremoniously welcomed into the capital. Cortés and his men left awestruck by the city's grandeur. Bernal Díaz del Castillo himself wrote that no eyes had ever beheld so splendid a city as Tenochtitlan. The fragile truce between the Aztecs and Spaniards was short-lived. Cortés quickly grasped Tenochtitlan's wealth and splendor, recognizing that conquering the Aztecs could bring him unparalleled fame and fortune. Tensions ignited when the Spaniards took Moctezuma II captive, holding him in gilded confinement to subdue the people. The Aztecs interpreted this as a vicious betrayal, and a wave of indignation swept through the city. What followed became infamous as the massacre at the Great Temple during a critical religious festival, where Spanish soldiers slaughtered many Aztec nobles and priests in the courtyard of the Templo Mayor. Outrage flared, and the Spaniards found themselves besieged in the royal palace where they had taken shelter. In June 1520, they attempted to escape the city by night, in what would be called La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. A significant portion of Cortés's troops and their indigenous allies perished in the canals, weighed down by stolen treasures. Though many Spaniards died, Cortés managed to flee with part of his force, vowing to return and crush Tenochtitlan once and for all. Moctezuma II's death remains shrouded in debate. Some accounts claim he was killed by his own subjects, others that he was murdered by the Spaniards. Regardless, following his demise, the Aztecs chose Cuitlahuac as their new leader, who quickly organized the city's defense. Unfortunately, he soon succumbed to smallpox, a disease introduced by the Europeans against which the local population had no immunity. The next leader, Cuauhtémoc, fought with desperation to protect Tenochtitlan, but in 1521, after a brutal 93-day siege, the Spaniards and their indigenous allies finally breached the city walls, destroying it systematically. Disease, famine, and war had decimated much of the populace. The Templo Mayor was dismantled, palaces were leveled, and the canals were gradually filled in during the colonial era. Thus fell Tenochtitlan, the capital that had governed the heart of Mexico for 2 centuries. Historians have sought to explain this tumultuous conclusion from diverse standpoints. On one hand, the Spaniards' technological edge in warfare, firearms, steel, and horses, proved decisive. On another, disease, especially smallpox, wreaked havoc, devastating the Aztec population and crippling their defense. Equally pivotal was the alliance between the Spaniards and local peoples hostile to Aztec dominion. Lastly, many argue that religious confusion sparked by the arrival of white men from the east initially paralyzed the Aztecs' response, allowing the invaders to solidify their position. Even so, Tenochtitlan was not erased entirely. In its stead, the Spaniards built a colonial settlement, now known as Mexico City, Ciudad de Mexico. Layer upon layer of buildings, roads, and Catholic churches were laid atop the ruins of the old city. During the 20th century, archaeological excavations unearthed sections of the Templo Mayor and other structures, reminding us of the brilliance hidden beneath the modern metropolis. Today, visitors may explore museums and archaeological sites woven into the urban tapestry of one of the largest cities in the world. Aztec heritage endures through numerous facets of modern Mexican life, in cuisine, where corn, chili peppers, and chocolate remain staples. In national emblems, Mexico's flag depicts an eagle on a cactus devouring a serpent. In place names, and in popular traditions that fuse indigenous and European elements. Even the ritual calendar and Mexico's Day of the Dead, Dia de Muertos, carry echoes of ancient religious practices. Gazing upon the vast sprawl of today's Mexico City, it is difficult to envision the lake city that once towered with colossal temples and navigable waterways. Yet, Tenochtitlan's essence lives on in every worn stone discovered beneath colonial edifices, in the names of neighborhoods, in the throbbing energy of markets, and in the vivid traditions enlivening contemporary Mexican culture. It is as if, in another dimension, beneath the roar of traffic and car horns, the ritual drum still beats, summoning ancestors for one last dance of memory. Tenochtitlan teaches us, perhaps, about the transience of great civilizations and the vital partnership between a people and their environment. Just as it thrived on swampy ground through remarkable innovation and collective determination, so was it ultimately undone by external violence, antagonistic alliances, and its own systemic frailties. Yet even in its partial disappearance lies a paradox. From Tenochtitlan's fall was born a new cultural blend, a union of indigenous legacy and European influence, forming the deep roots of what we know today as Mexico. In documentaries and written works dedicated to it, Tenochtitlan appears as both heroic and tragic, a warning to modern societies about the strength and frailty of great cities. Today's imposing skyscrapers may capture our imagination, but nothing can efface the memory of that beguiling island, raised by faith and ingenuity, defended by countless brave souls. Beyond the ruins, fascination still lingers for the place where a people turned a sacred vision into reality. And so our journey through time comes to a close, but Tenochtitlan's saga continues to stir our imagination. Merely close your eyes and picture how, out of a golden morning haze, the floating city's silhouette reappears. Traversed by wooden boats and canoes, with temples reaching skyward and a marketplace bursting with life. Sometimes the eagle still rises on its cactus, fixing us with fiery eyes, reminding us that behind the modern world lies a sublime past, brimming with mystery and passion. In this story's epilogue, you are urged not to let the burden of centuries diminish such a place's enchantment. Tenochtitlan was and remains a symbol of courage and conviction in a historic mandate, of the ability to shape a mythic vision into a tangible reality. Who can say what secrets still lie beneath the earth and waters of Lake Texcoco? Exploration goes on, and each year, archaeological discoveries and historical studies reveal more about Aztec life and its legacy. In our era, when everything evolves at dizzying speed and civilizations reinvent themselves from one generation to the next, Tenochtitlan reminds us that each stone, every street and every legend rests upon the bedrock of the past. Perhaps that is its greatest lesson. Never forget what has gone before if we hope to grasp what we might yet become. Should you ever find yourself in the heart of Mexico City, allow yourself a moment of reflection beside the remains of the Templo Mayor. Listen to the wind as it sweeps through the ruins, and imagine the ancient choruses of priests reciting sacred poetry, the drum beats, and the murmur of the canals. Though time has concealed the city, Tenochtitlan's spirit still resonates, waiting to be rediscovered by any traveler willing to see beyond the surface. This concludes the tale of a civilization that transformed marshland into an architectural and cultural paradise that subjugated and terrified entire peoples, but also forged enduring beauty and symbols. A capital born of divine visions and safeguarded by the valor of its warriors. A spiritual center where heaven and earth fused during every ceremony. Tenochtitlan is not merely a ruin or a footnote in the annals of history. It is the essence of humankind's perpetual quest to reach lofty ideals, to overcome environmental challenges, and to commune with the gods. Whether we speak of imposing construction projects or chinampas, of blood-stained rituals or refined poetry, All of it bears the imprint of a people who lived their destiny to the fullest until history dealt its tragic blow. We now end this odyssey with an invitation. Let the echoes of Tenochtitlan guide your imagination. You, the modern explorers, discover piece by piece the heritage of a nation that joined vision and deed, ascending until, in a fatal twist of fate, history clipped its wings. And yet those wings have not vanished completely. They still soar above the skies of present-day Mexico, reminding the world that grand legends never truly die. They merely await the right moment to bloom anew in the consciousness of the next generation. Imagine the beginning of a journey that pierces through layers of time, revealing before your eyes a vast, magnificent and mysterious landscape where the sun is said to dance on gilded surfaces and the wind carries the whispers of forgotten gods. Dear travelers of history and the pulsing realm of legends, I invite you to immerse yourselves in the secrets of a lost civilization, known across the Great Plains of North America as Quivira. Though time has spun its web of silence over it, the echo of this golden citadel still resonates among the tales of treasure seekers and scholarly explorers. Let us allow our imagination to carry us back centuries, to a place where a city once promised unimaginable riches and a thriving culture, only to disappear without a trace from the certain annals of history as enigmatically as it first emerged. Envision a morning sky of orange hues stretching over the endless horizons of the prairies. An army of grass, swaying in the wind, spans from one edge of the firmament to the other. Behind this tranquil scene, a tremor of excitement seizes us. It is as though the earth itself beckons us to uncover its secrets. Legend and reality intertwine, offering a breathtaking spectacle. Against this vast backdrop, ancient chroniclers noted the existence of a diligent, refined people whose temples were said to be draped in gold and whose granaries overflowed. We stand at the gates of Quivira, a place some regard as a metaphor for humanity's everlasting dream of discovering ultimate prosperity, while others firmly believe it was a sophisticated center of civilization, far ahead of its time in infrastructure and knowledge. In this documentary, we shall be guided by the torch of curiosity. We will begin by exploring the historical and cultural milieu in which Quivira left its mark. We will reconstruct both its distant past and the legendary charm that continues centuries later to fascinate adventurers and researchers alike. Prepare to feel the thrill of discovery as we discuss the founding of this city and the leaders who governed it. Then, we will delve into the realm of myths and legends, sifting through stories passed down by word of mouth and through the elusive chronicles of Spanish explorers. We will trace the trade routes that shaped its thriving economy, which is said to have turned Quivira into a pivotal hub of the Great Plains. But in every tale of glory lies a fundamental question. How could a city so grand, inspiring so many expeditions and investigations, vanish almost without a trace? We will navigate all theories of its collapse, ranging from natural disasters and epidemics to invasions by rival tribes or a gradual economic decline. Finally, we will end by examining its legacy, reminding ourselves that, although it may no longer stand in its original form, Quivira continues to captivate us, encouraging our own inner quests. Just as every legendary city sparks a passion for the unknown, so too will Quivira's story leave us with a flutter in our hearts and a longing to delve deeper into the past. Venturing into an understanding of Quivira, we face the major challenge of a lack of clear historical records. Still, there are fragments from various sources that compose an intriguing mosaic. The chronicles of European explorers, particularly the Spanish of the 16th and 17th centuries, describe a distant land, rich in resources and populated by tribes rumored to possess astonishing treasures. Those who heard of Quivira often embarked on arduous expeditions, driven by the desire to find these fabled golden cities. To establish a timeline, we need to journey back a little. In the mid-16th century, Spanish conquistadors, including Francisco Vázquez de Coronado, received accounts of wealthy cities lying beyond the regions they already knew. Enticed by the vision of a new El Dorado in the heart of North America, these explorers led their troops through deserts and barren stretches, then across the endless prairies, hoping one day to glimpse golden towers shining in the distance. In their reports, a single name echoed with tantalizing promise: Quivira. Although Spanish sources provide few details about Quivira's social structure, we can surmise that it rested upon a hierarchical leadership, perhaps a ruler or a group of rulers combining military and spiritual authority. It is possible these leaders initiated the construction of monuments and sanctuaries dedicated to the deities of the tribe, while also overseeing the management of resources, particularly food and water, both vital elements in those times. Modern historians also speculate that Quivira might not have been a single compact city, but rather a network of prosperous settlements, united by a shared identity and trade exchanges with neighboring tribes. This theory adds a layer of complexity to our image. We are not simply talking about one fortress, but a cultural region inhabited by a sedentary agrarian population well adapted to the harsh conditions of the Great Plains. Despite the difficult climate, it appears the people of Quivira managed to develop a rudimentary irrigation system and cultivate grains, vegetables, and fruits. Later accounts also emphasize how Quivira may have been a pivotal point in regional trade routes. Tribes from colder northern areas and those from the south would meet here to trade furs, salt, minerals, ornaments, and even textiles. In other words, Quivira might have been a genuine center of exchange among diverse native peoples, an aspect that enhanced its influence and gave it a certain prestige. This in turn has led some to believe that, along with their economic prosperity, Quivira's inhabitants and leaders might have had access to exceptional resources such as gold and silver, though the true nature of their material wealth remains shrouded in mystery to this day. Beyond scattered reports, Quivira persisted in local folklore and in stories recounted by indigenous tribes across multiple generations. Rumor has it that at the very heart of the city stood a temple dedicated to the sun, with walls and pillars clad in a shimmering metal. Some claimed it was pure gold, others believed it might have been brass or polished copper. In the collective imagination, however, the vision evolved into a sacred sanctuary that attracted the blessing of the sun upon the land, ensuring abundant harvests year after year. Legends also speak of protective gods watching over Quivira. It was said they demanded grandiose rituals and elaborate ceremonies, during which the tribe's priests would call upon the spirits of nature to shield their crops from drought and ward off enemies. Occasionally, these ceremonies took place at night, under the light of the moon and sacred fires, with the sound of drums and flutes echoing across the plains, creating an atmosphere of mysticism and communion with the unseen forces of the universe. Parallel to these narratives, Quivira's local mythology also resonates with tales of curses and omens. According to legend, when the city's rulers became too self-assured and began to exploit nature's riches, the gods sent warnings in the form of great storms or locust invasions. Initially dismissed, these signals were actually foreshadowing that prosperity can be fleeting and that the balance with nature and sacred powers must not be broken without consequences. For those who examine these stories in retrospect, such accounts are often viewed as metaphors for the dangers of pride and greed, which can lead to the downfall of all that has been built. It is important to note that Europeans, fueled by insatiable desire, embellished these legends even further. Their relentless pursuit of golden cities and precious stones led the conquistadors to magnify every hint they encountered. Consequently, Quivira took on a sort of holy grail aura in North America, a promised land lacking nothing, its soil itself potentially hiding unexploited gold deposits. Yet, as we well know, historical reality and mythology frequently merge into a narrative that defies the logic of time, and Quivira thus became a symbol of hope, human ambition, and ultimate disillusionment. Setting legends aside for a moment, let us focus on the more concrete aspects of Quivira's economy and society, as inferred from various hypotheses and historical fragments. One of the most plausible theories suggests that Quivira's population survived on well-organized agriculture and small-scale animal husbandry. Living in an area marked by hot summers and harsh winters, agricultural success required irrigation techniques and deep knowledge of natural cycles. There are indications that the inhabitants of Quivira built simple canals to divert water from nearby rivers, possibly the Arkansas River or other smaller streams. These channels would have enabled the collection and distribution of water for essential crops like corn, beans, squash, and perhaps certain grains adapted to the climate. They may have also employed crop rotation strategies to maintain soil fertility. If these practices indeed existed, then Quivira can rightly be considered an agricultural success story in a region where nature is anything but generous. From a social standpoint, some researchers propose that Quivira functioned as a confederation of tribes or clans, each with a defined role in the community's overall governance. Nobles, or tribal leaders, likely held control over resources and major decisions, while priests and healers occupied a particularly important position as intermediaries between the physical world and the spiritual. Meanwhile, groups of artisans and craftsmen oversaw the production of tools, pottery, jewelry, and other items that supported both daily life and religious ceremonies. Commercial interactions with neighboring tribes and distant groups would have been another key factor in Quivira's prosperity. Stories speak of regular bartering events, akin to public fairs, where grains, animals, salt, and possibly luxury goods, such as freshwater pearls or copper ornaments, were exchanged. This trading network strengthened social cohesion, but also thrust Quivira into the limelight, attracting other peoples eager to gain either goods or military control over what appeared to be a region of strategic importance and promised riches. Perhaps Quivira's greatest achievement, if oral history fragments are to be believed, was its capacity to maintain a relative balance between the ever-increasing demands of society and the natural resources available. In a region plagued by unpredictable rainfall and harsh winds that could threaten crops, such stability reflects a high level of organization, knowledge, and adaptability to the environment. Although the image of Quivira as a golden kingdom may be largely an exaggeration, one thing remains certain. There once existed a prosperous, cohesive settlement in this region. Yet, as with many ancient cultures, its fate lies in shadows and speculation. What factors led to the disappearance of Quivira? One initial theory points to climatic changes. Prolonged drought cycles could have severely impacted agriculture, water sources, and the delicate balance between sedentary groups and nomadic hunter-gatherer tribes. As crops failed, the population would have been forced to migrate, moving closer to permanent water supplies or altering their lifestyle, abandoning an urban center for more dispersed tribal structures. A second plausible scenario involves military conflict or external pressure. As rival tribes consolidated their forces, Quivira, with its wealth and strategic location, could have become a coveted prize. Repeated sieges might have weakened the city, prompting its inhabitants either to surrender or to flee. Moreover, the arrival of Spanish conquistadors, even though they never definitively located Quivira, could have indirectly destabilized the region by shaping alliances and hostilities among indigenous tribes. Another factor to consider is the spread of European diseases. History has repeatedly shown that native populations were extremely vulnerable to epidemics such as smallpox, measles, and influenza. Even if Quivira did not experience extensive contact with Spaniards or other colonial powers, trade exchanges or passing travelers could have introduced deadly pathogens. A rapid outbreak of unknown diseases might have decimated the population, making it impossible to sustain a city. Lastly, there is also the idea of a gradual decline in which multiple factors, climate, resources, conflict, and cultural change, converge to undermine Quivira's relevance and strength. Over time, the urban center may have been abandoned in favor of smaller settlements, and collective memory transformed the city into a fabled tale of lost grandeur. Amplified by legends of gold and riches, it is no wonder Quivira has remained steeped in an aura of mystery and allure. Debates over Quivira's exact location, or even its existence as a centralized entity, continue to spark heated discussions among archaeologists and historians. Some argue that Quivira might have been nothing more than a collective name for multiple settlements of native tribes. Others maintain optimism that further excavations will reveal clear evidence of structures, pottery, or inscriptions. Until then, we remain captive to a captivating enigma, with each hypothesis gathering its own supporters. To better grasp the essence of Quivira, let us imagine an ordinary day in this city, before its magic and splendor faded into the meanders of time. The sun rises over the lush expanses, and the inhabitants awaken to begin their labors. A woman opens the door of her humble dwelling, built from hardened adobe, and gazes upon cornfields stretching to the horizon. Men and women head to the farmlands, some armed with rudimentary digging tools, others ready to gather the ripened harvest. Craftsmen and artisans set about their tasks in open-air workshops located in the city center. Hammers clang against metal and potters' wheels spin. Young apprentices strive to replicate their masters' techniques, shaping colorful pottery and meticulously crafted ornaments. Some of these items will be used in religious ceremonies, others will be traded with neighboring tribes. A few streets away, markets and fairs stir to life. Stalls overflow with grains, beans, fruit, textiles, and sometimes exotic merchandise brought by traders from afar. People engage in lively discussions about this year's crop yields, and rumors of expeditions beyond the horizon spread quickly. On street corners, whisperers already mention hostile forces that might be approaching the boundaries, reminding everyone that prosperity often attracts envy. At the city's heart rises a structure that towers over the modest dwellings, a temple perhaps, where prayers and offerings are made to the gods of the sky and earth. Priests in lavish robes prepare for the evening ceremony, when they will implore divine protection for the harvest and for their families. The scent of burning herbs mingles with the beat of drums, filling the air, while children watch with wide, curious eyes as the solemn ritual unfolds. Toward nightfall, the city settles into a calmer rhythm. People gather around fires, sharing the day's events and retelling ancient legends of heroes and gods. Here, oral tradition becomes the catalyst through which younger generations learn about their past and cultural values. In this familial, intimate setting, tales of strangers, soldiers in gleaming armor wielding unfamiliar weapons and speaking strange languages, take on a certain mystique. No one knows when these outsiders might arrive at the city gates, or whether they will be received with trust or fear. It is a unified world, albeit one marked by diverse hierarchies and beliefs. Every individual, from the humblest farmer to the most powerful leader, knows their place and their contribution. Pride in belonging to this community is palpable, and the bond between land and spirituality is not some abstract notion, but a tangible reality lived each day. This is Quivira, alive with vitality and hope, poised on the brink of the great challenges that would soon alter it forever. We cannot discuss Quivira without mentioning the profound influence that the feverish quest for gold had on the Spaniards' imagination. In search of the legendary El Dorado and other similar treasures, conquistadors led their forces northward from Mexico, crossing deserts and mountains. In the writings of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado from the 1540s, there is an explicit reference to Quivira. Yet to their disappointment, they found no towering golden fortresses, only Native American villages with modest homes and fields of corn. This disparity between Spanish expectations and the reality they encountered produced a fascinating paradox. Quivira was recorded as a letdown, lacking the spectacular riches they had anticipated. Yet it persisted in the collective consciousness as a golden city, thanks to the rumors and myths spread afterward. It is possible the explorers exaggerated certain details, either to justify the expense of their expeditions, or to keep alive the hope of further investments from wealthy patrons. Despite the letdowns, these expeditions had a significant impact on settlements in the Great Plains. Though there is no conclusive evidence that the Spanish maintained a large military presence in Quivira, their proximity set off a chain of events. local tribes became aware of the power of firearms and began seeking ways to strengthen their own defensive alliances. Moreover, the demand for certain European goods, knives, iron tools, glass beads, rose, altering the dynamics of the local economy. Each time the Spaniards returned home with tales of extensive northern territories that might harbor treasures, Quivira came back into the limelight. Gradually, however, Spanish interest shifted toward other regions deemed more promising, and Quivira remained merely a question mark on the map of their expeditions. In their wake, subtle social tensions and transformations lingered in the local communities, along with increased interest from other European nations, French, English, and even Dutch, who also cast curious eyes upon the continent's interior. Perhaps the true mystique of Quivira lies in how its story has endured through rumor, recollection, and humanity's boundless desire to find what is hidden. In the centuries that followed, Quivira continued to appear in writings, predominantly in discussions of the fervent quests for riches in the New World. Even now, some modern adventurers, some armed with metal detectors, dream of uncovering artifacts or even vestiges of this lost city. Though no archaeological discoveries confirm the existence of a golden metropolis, several sites in Kansas, Nebraska, and Oklahoma have revealed evidence of significant pre-Columbian settlements, houses, fire pits, and stone tools. Some researchers have associated these places with Quivira, suggesting that the name may have referred to a cluster of Caddoan or Wichita tribes. Naturally, the debate remains open, and each new find reignites excitement. Symbolically, Quivira remains an illustration of hope and the gulf between myth and reality. Just as Spanish explorers believed they would find towers of gold and magnificent sculptures, so we, in our modern pursuits, search for hidden treasures in various forms, whether in technological progress, scientific breakthroughs, or personal discoveries. Quivira reminds us that the craving for a more prosperous, more wondrous land is a constant feature of the human spirit, reflecting our thirst for knowledge, adventure, and fulfillment. Moreover, this lost city compels us to consider the fragility of any civilization. Behind great achievements in architecture, agriculture, commerce, and art lie finite resources, ecological vulnerabilities, and external threats. In Quivira's case, a single shift in climate, an outbreak of disease, or a military invasion proved sufficient to dissolve what had been painstakingly built over generations. For the region's indigenous tribes, Quivira is also a source of cultural pride and a focal point of identity. Whether it was a confederation of tribes or a more centralized location, Quivira's legacy still resonates in the myths and ceremonies preserved among these communities. Certain tribal dances and seasonal rituals trace their lineage to ancient beliefs that tied the sacredness of the earth to the community's prosperity. And so, esteemed friends of exploration and lovers of the unknown, Quivira's tale leads us to a realm where history and myth intermingle in a mesmerizing dance. On one hand, we have historical fragments, archaeological remains, travel accounts, and scientific hypotheses depicting a people with a flourishing culture adapted to the demanding conditions of the Great Plains. On the other hand, we see the legend of a golden city, brimming with resplendent temples and fabulous treasures. a vision that fueled the ambitions and imaginations of countless generations of adventurers. Between these extremes lies Quivira's true magic. It does not matter whether its walls were made of gold or adobe, but rather how a human community thrived in a challenging environment, constructing remarkable social and economic structures and leaving behind a legacy that endures through the centuries. Perhaps Quivira's genuine treasure is the knowledge and example of a community that learned to live in harmony with nature, to innovate, and to prosper through trade, art, and spirituality. And yet, in the end, Quivira remains an open challenge. Despite modern discoveries, we still have not fully unraveled the enigma of its exact location, its true scope, or the definitive reasons for its decline. This mystery continues to spark explorations, inspires new expeditions, and grants Quivira a unique allure. In a world increasingly dominated by technology and swift answers, Quivira stands as a secret corner of our planet, reminding us that the spirit of adventure and the drive to explore are traits that will never be extinguished. Therefore, I invite you all to keep the spark of curiosity alive. After the ceremonial fires burn out and the final drumbeat fades into the night, Quivira still endures. In the story we have just shared, in the dreams of modern treasure hunters, and in the hearts of all who believe in the power and beauty of legend. Like every journey into forgotten civilizations, our voyage closes with a renewed desire to learn more, and with wonder, perhaps even stronger, at how much remains to be discovered in our shared past. Everyone who has followed these accounts to the end now symbolically walks the dusty trails of the prairies, where the sun sets in golden hues and the wind carries echoes centuries old. You may not uncover a chest of gold, but you will have found a valuable lesson about ambition, resilience, faith, and above all, the unending charm of mystery. Thus concludes our documentary, where the past merges with legend, hope encounters reality, and Quivira rises once again, if only for a moment, through the power of our memories and imaginations. Finally, gaze upon those vast horizons. Let your hearts tremble under the immense sky of the Great Plains, where once a people built their city and lived with the conviction that their legacy would stand for all eternity. Perhaps the name Quivira will spread like a rainbow, connecting past and present, reminding us that regardless of place or time, the human spirit is perpetually guided by the dreams of building, learning, and aspiring. With that in mind, I invite you to cherish Quivira's mystery as a shining beacon, reminding us that in every corner of the globe and in every chapter of history, wonders still lie hidden, waiting to be brought to light.